Hello, Jets fans, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk on a fun episode here as the New York Jets. They gave us heart attacks, they gave us migraines, they gave us heart palpitations. They probably made us drink a little bit on Sunday, but the New York Jets got the job done. It was basically a great movie to begin with, a horror movie in the middle, and then somehow an inspirational comeback to top it off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk, your home for New York Jets content. We will be live after every single New York Jets game this season. Make sure you join us. Bring your comments, bring everything you'd like. But man, the New York Jets, I had so much prepared to rip this team, rip them through three quarters, how this game was getting out of hand, how the Jets had a 6-point turnaround, not only with Zach Wilson's ill-advised interception in the second quarter, but then another dumb penalty by this Jets veteran, Carl Lawson, leads to a 60-yard field goal. I'm like, okay, and Kenny Pickett coming in. I'm like, okay, the script is written. This is going to be the same old Jets, but I have to give credit where credit is due. And look, there is one reason that the New York Jets won this football game. And to me, this is the most important thing about this season, and it is the most important thing going forward. And again, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button so we can get more Jets fans in here, and of course, comment. But look, we can talk about the coaching, we can talk about the play calling, but in the NFL in 2022, it all comes down to the quarterbacks. And here's the truth. Quarterbacks need to overcome, and really franchise quarterbacks have to overcome adversity. And they have to be able to pick a team up on their shoulders when a game is going against them, when a team knows you have to pass to win, when a team knows exactly what is coming, and more importantly, when a team is shorthanded. Let's be honest. The first three quarters, Zach was hit and miss. It was rusty, but you saw the reason why people fell in love with him during the combine. You saw the reason why people love the potential of this kid. And you saw what he did in the fourth quarter of this game. Jets down by 10 points, and Zach Wilson answers the call with two successful drives, including the last drive going a perfect 5 for 5 for 57 yards on the game-winning drive, in spite of his offensive line deciding to get dumb penalties all over the place. Corey Davis with a block in the back to make it a first and really long situation. The Jets get down on the goal line, get backed up to the 11 after consecutive penalties, and still, Zach Wilson, yes, I know, the stat sheet will not be sexy in the box scores. 18 of 36 for 252 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. And do we count the second interception? A little bit high to Conklin. I'd put more of that on Conklin than Zach, but still not great. 59 rating, not great. You'd like to see more consistency from Zach. There's a lot you still like to see from Zach. But the biggest thing you look for franchise quarterbacks in this league, when the chips are down. And look, I get the argument's going to be the Jets have a bad offensive line. The Jets have injuries on the offensive line. I get that. That is a major hindrance. That's going to be a problem. But the Jets are not the only team in the NFL with bad offensive line play. They're not the only team that suffered a myriad of injuries. And look, has it been unfortunate that the Jets' injuries have happened on the offensive line? Yes. But you know what's the good news? Their playmakers are healthy. Most of their defense is pretty much healthy. And we'll get to the defense. We'll get to so many comments. But the biggest thing this season is predicated on, and I have said it over and over and over again. This season, the success of this season is going to be determined not necessarily by the wins and losses. What is going to determine the success of this season? It is going to be the play and development of Zach Wilson. And let's be honest, Zach Wilson in the first half, was it rust? Was it bad offensive line play? Was it not the coaching staff trusting him? I don't know. But basically, when the Jets had no other choice, where it's like, okay, kid, you have to get us out of this. They basically said to Zach Wilson, take our crummy offensive line, which is getting beat like a drum today. take against a good Steelers defense. Not great, but still a good Steelers defense on the road, down 10, and lead us to the promised land. And you know what? The Jets and Zach Wilson responded. Zach Wilson made the key plays. Zach Wilson, you just felt like if he got the ball back, and they luckily did because of a great, like, people are going to say Michael Carter had a great interception. He did, but let's be honest, that interception was caused by the great coverage by Sauce Gardner, who, again, week after week is showing the potential to be a superstar in this league. You can see why people are basically going to be excited about his potential and the coverage that he brings there. And Zach, look, I get it. There's a lot of questions I have about Zach. Does his accuracy still a bit of a concern? Yes. Was there passes that he was lucky was an interception? Yes. But when it came down to it, when Zach Wilson had to make a play in this game, when Zach Wilson had to take this team, this organization, and put it on his back on the road, that's the other thing, guys. Can the Jets play well in front of the home crowd? Like, seriously, like, all these great games are on the road. Like, can we actually get a great game at MetLife this year? But, man, we will get to your comments. There's so much, the outlook going forward. And really, a win is a win in the NFL, but I will go into why this win is so crucial for this team, especially going forward. But I can just see the excitement around everyone. And look, Zach, a lot of throws. You're hoping it was more Russ today. That's what you were hoping for. Zach carried this team. While that's awesome, this should have been a comfortable victory against a not very good Steelers team, but dumb penalties and bad play. So hats off to Zach. Look, that's the thing with Zach. Look, the interception in the first half was ill-advised. And yes, it did cost the Jets 3 points. But what exacerbated that problem was the fact that Lawson created that dumb penalty. So the Jets could have easily gone to the half with still a one possession lead, a 7-point lead, but with that dumb penalty extended it. And look, that's the thing. Look at all the things Zach had to overcome. Because was the Jets coaching really good today? I didn't think so. I didn't like some of the play calling. I didn't like some of the organization. I will give them credit for actually playing Elijah Vera Tucker at the left tackle position, for God's sakes. But then it's like you keep putting Connor McDermott out there. And look, Connor McDermott keeps going down the field, guys, and that's why he keeps getting those penalties down the field, because the only thing he knows how to do is catch the football. That's the only thing he's ever done of any meaning in the NFL is catch that one touchdown pass last year. And because he probably knows he's a human turnstile at tackle, I'm going to try to make a play. But you do realize you're a tackle, not a tight end, Connor. I'm happy they won, but I'm not satisfied with the way they won. And look, Momo, I get it. Like, this is a game where there's a lot of emotions tied to this game. But I'll be frank, I didn't love a lot of the things on the defense. I didn't love some of the pass rushing today. I didn't love John Franklin Myers, again, had a really rough game. When you saw Trubisky start to run, it was because Myers didn't have lane discipline. And you basically saw Quinnen. If Quinnen was blowing up this game, Quinnen Williams had a freaking awesome game, guys. He was all over the freaking place. He was chasing guys down across the field as a defensive freaking tackle. But it pissed me off when I see guys, and I'll get to one edge player that I hate to say so, but I think we were all kind of right on this. But there was too many times I saw John Franklin Myers as the end try to kick it inside, try to go inside on the tackle and get into the guards that opened up the lane, didn't maintain the edge. If he even maintained the edge, Quinnen could have gotten a sack. And look, guys, one of the big things too, Bryce Huff actually played a game. And you know what was funny? Bryce Huff had a sack in this game. The pressure rate was great from the edge. Who would have thought that over the last 3 weeks when only I've been saying, why is Bryce Huff not playing? Why is Bryce Huff not playing? Statistically, it shows that they're a better pass rush team with him. He's a good edge player. And, look what happens. And here's another thing for the Jets, for this defensive lines. I understand that you've paid John Franklin Myers, and he has a decent cap hit on this team. Look, I understand that you have a connection to Sheldon Rankings and Solomon Thomas and also the defensive tackle, so I can kind of get it. Look, I understand Lawson had a nice sack in this game, but let's be honest. The one defensive end that needs to be on the field was one that got his first full sack today, has a sack and a half on the season, and in limited time has been an impact player. And oh, by the way, is good in the run defense, and that's Jermaine Johnson. Because let's not forget the Jets also invested a first-round pick in him. I want to see him more in the field. He's been more of an impact defensive end than John Franklin Myers and Lawson, so I want to see him back. Corey Davis with a big game. And look, Corey, this was a step-up game for Jets that Jet fans have been critical of. Look, I haven't been as critical of Corey Davis as a lot of Jet fans. I think Corey Davis has been a nice receiver, but the safeties today, Joyner had 2 or 3 picks. I know at least 2. I'm trying to remember. I know he had the early one. Then you had the Whitehead interception. Look, the safeties, I understand this was a bad quarterback play today for the Steelers. Like, let's also throw that out there. That's another bit concerning too is, look, let me get to some of the I'll get to the positives in a little bit, but let me start with a little negative too. Like one of the biggest, actually, no, I'll say positive. Let me get to the negative layer. Let me stay with the positive. So good game. Jets had to figure out how to keep the ball moving, when things gone. Penalties need to stop. If we can get an offensive line that can play for 506 games, I think we'll see a really good Zach Wilson. I don't think anybody lost as many offensive lines as we did now. Max Mitchell, who's out, is coming from another injury. Yeah, it'll be the biggest X factor for the New York Jets this week will be what happens with the IR, because there's a chance that Dwayne Brown can come off the IR. If he can come off the IR for next week, that will be huge because you can do a couple things. Obviously, Brown goes to your left tackle spot, but then what do you do with AVT? Do you move AVT to right tackle and play Herbig? And look, McGovern did not have a good game on the interior. I thought Herbig was overwhelmed at times. Look, I think Herbig's still better than like Greg Van Roten, but it showed why there's a reason Nate Herbig isn't a full-time starter in this league. So, but Brown, if he comes back, does at least stabilizes one position, or the hope is he stabilizes one position. But man, Max Mitchell, it was brutal. I hope it's not a long injury. I hope he can come back at some point this season. But even if there's a chance he doesn't come back, I think he's proven enough to me that he can be a starting tackle in this league, and it's a big loss. And you can tell how much development can only be made if Zach has a decent offensive line. Yeah, the offensive line has to play better. Let's see. He drafts Zach overall. Wasn't perfect, but cleaned up his play throughout the game. Small play for the most part. Didn't drive. And look, that was the thing too. Like he didn't. I think there was a stat. He was 0 of 9 when he was pressured, but when he wasn't pressured, and you could tell when Zach had time, he made plays. And what happened later in that game, you could tell that pass rush for the Steelers was starting to get a little bit tired. And the Jets' offensive line was just holding up enough to give Zach time. And that's, I think, a really good time because when Zach had time in this game, the mistakes came outside of the bad interception in the first half, which, again, I can't defend. But the second interception was rolling out. There's a couple of the bad throws when he had to be forced out of the pocket. And look, there were some times with this play call, it drove me nuts when the Jets, every first down, would try to run it up the middle in between the guards. And I'm like, guys, the only plays that are working are the stretch plays, are the outside runs. You got to get to the edge with these speed guys as your running backs. It also pissed me off, too, because I kept seeing Garrett Wilson and Berrios in motion. I'm like, can we try a sweep one time with one of these receivers just once to, mix it up a little bit? That is James brings up a great point, too. Can they run play action? They keep running it down, trying to get 2-yard gains on first down. Like, maybe, I know they might not feel comfortable, like, at the 20, but one of the great examples was when the Jets had the ball on the kickoff that went out of bounds at the 40-yard line. It really pissed me off because I'm saying, look, you're at midfield. Try taking a shot down the field here. That would have been a great spot for the play action. So, look, I agree, James. They need to get more traction. Why is Braxton getting no love, like from me or from the Jets? I think part of it is that they have so many weapons now that it's hard to get them on the field. But look, guys, this was a big victory, and let's be honest, it covered up a lot of warts for this team because as good as this Jet win was, as good as this defense played at times, as better as the pass rush was, there's still some red flags for me. The biggest red flags are still the dumb penalties. Like, this is a team that just shoots itself in the foot, and they're not good enough to get away with these penalties. And the other big thing, too, is while the Jets defense played better, we have to also remember that this is likely the worst quarterbacks they're going to play the entire season. Now, it could be different in the Patriot game if they play Brian Hoyer, the Destroyer, because it's looking like that's going to be the matchup for them. But let's be honest, like you had a rookie quarterback, and that was another big concern for me. Yes, Pickett had the interception later, but you had 2 drives where, yeah, they scored on the goal line, but the one drive after that really annoying where Kenny looked comfortable. Kenny went down the field and scored on this defense. And look, Robert Saleh and Ulbrich are defensive coaches. Like that should make their mouths salivate. We have a rookie quarterback starting in his first game ever, and we have a chance to make his life hell. And they didn't do it. That to me was incredibly frustrating. And some of this coaching decision, the offensive play calling, really was a head scratcher timing. The Jets never want to try a wide receiver screen, but will do that weird toss back play to Zach. And look, I think that play has some merit. I'd like to see it tried again, but hopefully not when the guy is coming around the edge. And look, the pass back plays, if you have a good offensive line, try that. But when you have a strong offensive line, utilize the play action, utilize the jet sweep. I'd also like to see them use more motion to their advantage. You have one of the nice sets that I really liked today was when you had both Carter and Hall in the backfield for running backs. I would like to see them run some more option run plays where, for example, you have Garrett Wilson coming across. That gives you multiple options. Like, let's say a play design could be you have Garrett Wilson coming across, you have the 2 backs next to you. You get the snap if you're Zach. You have the option to design the play to give it to Garrett Wilson. He goes around the edge, or Braxton Berrios or whatever receivers in motion, or hand it to a running back. Now, I wouldn't say you'd have both runners running, but having both of those running backs in there for deception could be good. Or you could go off of that play, fake it to Garrett Wilson. Let's say you had the defense starting to shift toward Garrett Wilson. Like, let's say Garrett Wilson's running toward left tackle. He's going to the left side. You have the defense starting to pull that way. You leak Carter or Hall out to the right, and that opens up a passing lane for them in an easy dump off. So that could be a play design for this team that I would like to see utilized in the future. I think it could work very well. And for this offensive line, look, I know they just signed him. I want Cedric to start. I'd rather have Herman start at right tackle. Like, I cannot for the life of me. And look, I don't think there's any defending it with Connor McDermott. And this is also a decision that Saleh has to show me with this fan base. And I do think it's becoming a bit of a problem. And look, I get coaches have favorites. I get that coaches like veterans because of their experience. But we're at a point now with this Jet team where, to me, Jermaine Johnson needs to get more snaps. He's making more impact plays on this defense than, let's be honest, John Frankenmeyers and, let's be honest, Carl Lawson. It's getting to the point, too, where I'm looking at McDermott over and over again. And I give the Jets a lot of credit because they did put AVT, who to me is this team's most valuable player on offense. And before you jump down my throat, this is why. Yes, I know that Garrett Wilson, you have unbelievable playmakers, and Zach's the most important. But AVT, look, didn't have a great game, but was asked to play left tackle for the first time since college and played, I thought, respectively at the left tackle position. And this is someone that the Jets have basically bounced from left guard to right guard to left tackle. I mean, this isn't Madden, guys, where you can just magically put an offensive lineman at a different position and it works and there's no issues. Like, it is a lot different. And part of the problem with this offensive line, too, is I just think, is it the talent up front? Yes, but a lot of the issues are also coming from that they haven't had a chance to gel because every game it's a different unit. And like, think about it. AVT was playing left tackle today. You had Herbig in there for the first time. You had Mitchell going down. Then you have to bring in McDermott. I mean, really outside of left guard and center, the Jets have been a turnstile at the other 3 offensive line positions, which in the NFL is never going to be a success long term. They need to settle down, and that's one of the reasons why, if you can get Brown back to play left tackle next week, it settles this offensive line down a lot. Let's get back to more of your comments, guys. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Let us see what we got here today. Max Mitchell, look, that's way too That's way too early. Like, look, for me, you got to have multiple injuries, and it wasn't. It was a situation too where he got rolled up on. It can happen to any offensive lineman. It's frustrating, but I think it's way too much to do that. Good win, yeah, a win's a win, but this one felt really good. Zach looked very calm from the beginning of the game to the end. That's James. It's actually a really astute observation. Where if you did watch him, even on the sideline, let's be honest, like he was unbelievable. He was someone that basically was out there, and Zach at the podium right now. First Jets quarterback, franchise and quarterback history to catch a TD pass. And that's the other thing, made a great catch today as well. But look, you saw Zach basically, he made bad mistakes. There's no question he made bad mistakes today. It's judgment that, look, really needs to be done well. And it is kind of funny because I did reach out to WFAN earlier this week as a fan. I asked them in one of the interviews, and they asked the question to Elijah Vera Tucker. And this is one thing, like, I will give Salah's coaching staff credit for one thing that I do think is very important. And look, I understand that people hate the way they've talked about handling injuries and how, like, the whole Zach Wilson potentially playing, like, the communication of the injuries has been bad. But one thing I do like about the Saleh regime is nothing gets out of this organization. I think that is huge because let's be honest, how many beat writers and people cover the Jets? Like, I can make an argument that there might not be a team more covered with more insiders and with more fans that keep a close eye on everything than the New York Jets. And it was the fans that first noticed that AVT was at left tackle in warmups today, but that would have been something like in the past, we would have known on Tuesday that Elijah Vera Tucker was going to be starting left tackle. So I also have to give the Jets a lot of credit for being able to keep that in reps. I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but how many times under Rex, under Bowles, and Adam Gase did it seem like the Jets was just a sieve where just information would come out? And I do think that that is very important. And one of the few things I really like that has changed under the Saleh regime. Corey Davis, I now need to take a picture off his milk carton I have in the refrigerator. That's a good joke, man. Really good joke. Mims and Bryce Hall ain't getting no love. Look, hey, Nate, it's tough, but let me address both these really quick. Look, Bryce Hall, I think he's going to get traded by the Jets. Look, it's clear that they love DJ Reed. They love Michael Carter. They love Sauce Gardner, and they value Brandon Eccles more. And look, I get it's frustrating, but this to me is an exciting thing. Like, Bryce Hall was a good corner. He's an okay corner. He's a solid corner. But the fact that the Jets have vastly improved that corner position is exciting. Now, Mims, look, I get the frustration, but you saw it today. You had guys like Corey Davis. You had guys like even I didn't think they got Garrett Wilson enough involved. Elijah Moore made a couple nice plays. Look, he is so far down the pecking order, unfortunately. And look, barring an injury, he's not going to make the roster. He's not going to be playing. KD, haven't heard from you in a while. Good to hear from you again. Joyner immediately playing better makes me think he didn't just forget how to play. I think the communication in the backfield is just that bad. Look, KD, I think it's a mix of both. I think the communication clearly was a lot better because let's be honest, the Jets today, it wasn't communication. On defense, what killed them was assignments, which is different because communication is just kind of getting more in the spots and especially more in the secondary. There's a lot more of the pass rush and the contains in the pass rush that bothered me today. And also CJ Mosley. Like, again, I understand why the Jets moved his contract back to open up cap space this year, but a part of me thinks that was a bad decision because, look, I think there are some weeks he looks respectable, but this is a week he looks washed, where he looks slow, he looked out of position, and even on the broadcast, they were calling there was positions where he needed to get up the field and into the backfield, and he wasn't getting there. But look, I think you're right. It is communication, but let's also be frank. This is also a bad quarterback situation. This is probably the worst quarterback situation the Jets are going to play all year outside of maybe the Patriots. And look, if this was a great, I think, confidence builder for the safety group. Next week's going to be a big test because you have the Dolphins. And it doesn't matter if Teddy Bridgewater's back there. It doesn't matter if Tua's back there. You have two guys that can take the top off of defense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Look, they're going to get theirs. They're going to put up numbers. They're going to make plays. The big thing is you can't let them make the big play. Yeah, you can have them make an occasional 20-yard play. That will hurt, but it won't kill you. What kills you is when you give up the 60, 70-yard touchdowns. They cannot allow that in next week's game. So that will be the true test. Slant screens, Barrios. Yep, I agree. I want to see. That was the other thing, too. Like, this passing game needs to get more of the short game involved. And I want to kind of see them get that established early because, look, the way the Jets offense has been, defenses know they're going to try to run the ball early to get positive. I would try to come out throwing, just getting short throws, whether it's to Barrios, whether it's screens, whether it's just slants, whether it's quick outs, just to at least get the defense to back up and open up some of those running holes. And look, the other big thing for Zach is he seems like a really rhythmic quarterback. Like, he really got into a groove in the last part of the game. And part of it, too, is I think it was just passing. It was the tempo. And he looked really good over the last part of the game. Our biggest issues, we still can't get out of our own way. Yep. Penalties, absolutely terrible. Absolutely horrendous. That was I brought that up earlier. Hey, Nate, like that to me is a big concern with this Jet team where I see this team going out there just not being able to consistently get pressure. And look, this is a good win. This is an impressive win. It's a good win. It's a feel-good win. And let's be honest, too, this is a win that the Jets really, really had to have. They really had to have this game because the way the schedule is, and I've been saying the Jet team needs to be 3-6. And again, the back half of their schedule, especially with Jacksonville looking like a lot better team now, is going to be tougher. But I just look at the next few weeks with this Jet schedule, and this at least affords them a little bit of luxury because if they were 2-7 at the bye, it'd be tough. But 3-6, I think, is the bare minimum for this team to compete in the second half of the season. And I know it's not pretty, and there's going to be some ugly games, but like you look at this Jets schedule now up until the bye, and then after the bye, they get the Patriots on the road, which is never easy for the Jets, although Mac Jones is probably back for that game. But I just look at the next few weeks. Dolphins, Packers on the road, Broncos on the road, Patriots at home, and the Bills at home. Look, I know the Bills haven't played as well, but I think that's going to be a tough game to win. The Broncos are a little over the place, but they still have 2 weeks before the Jets get there to figure more stuff out. Packers, always tough to play them in Green Bay. And look, the Dolphins, it also hurts the Jets too, because again, they're getting a disadvantage of Thursday night football where, yeah, the Dolphins could be impacted at the quarterback position, but they also will get an extra couple days of rest because they get that medium bye like what the Steelers got coming off of Thursday night football, which also hurts too. So they get a little bit more extra rest before the Jet game. I mean, really, I think the biggest one I'm circling on the counter to win is the October 30th. Like that to me is the game the Jets need to win. It's at home against the Patriots. And look, if they can somehow upset the Broncos or the Dolphins, I think are the most next likely and be 4-5, they'll be in excellent shape. But the bare minimum they have to be going in the next second half of the season is 3-6. Let's see. It might be time to stop playing tackles at this point. Air has more protection. Yeah, it almost does feel like that. Look, we'll also don't forget too, Momo, when he was on the depth chart, I'll just go quickly through this. Barrios was great last year during the last stretch of the season, but don't forget Corey Davis was hurt. Then you had Elijah Moore get hurt. Like he was legitimately the only Jets playmaker. And basically the Jets also were down to like Tevin Coleman at running back. Like even Michael Carter was hurt. Now you have Michael Carter. They've added Breece Hall. They've added Garrett Wilson. Corey Davis is healthy again. Elijah Moore is healthy again. And they also added 3 tight ends in the through free agency in the draft. So the Jets have added a lot on offense. So still interested in this defensive line. The rotation was a little bit better today. The thing that annoys me the most is I want to see more Jermaine Johnson, to be honest with you guys. I think, look, the Jets spent a first-round pick on him. He's made an impact even in the run game. I really like him. And like, let's be honest, like I want to see more on the field more. Like he is a dynamic player that needs to be on the field more. Let's see what else. AVT, the most diverse, absolutely. Like he, to me, uh, is incredible and really has been a home run pick because of the versatility he brings. Like he does, so he brings so much to the table because how many offensive linemen can move around? Look, I think AVT can be an all pro at guard. Now, if they move him to tackle, is he a pro bowler? Maybe slightly below because it's hard to play tackle, but having someone to do that ability, I actually thought they were going to move Mitchell to left tackle to not screw around with AVT, but it shows you like usually your left tackle is your best offensive line. It shows the Jets how much they believe in this guy because they said, look, our offensive line's a mess right now. Let's just put our best offensive lineman out there and we'll land. I'm curious to see what the PFF grades are tomorrow. Again, I don't think they're completely accurate, but you also realize the hole that by moving AVT to left tackle created because when the Jets have run the ball, it was on that right side behind Mitchell and behind AVT. You move them out of there today. Herbig wasn't great. I mean, he was better than everyone's better than freaking Greg Van Roten, as I like to call it. But like the thing though is, I just look at the way that they ran the football today. You could just tell they couldn't get a good push, but like that still was probably the best combo. I'm curious to see what the Jets did. Now the Jets were aggressive. I'm curious to see what they do with the practice squad because they brought in Remmers. Remmers has played guard before. Could he potentially be in the lineup this week after going through the playbook this week? Could he be inserted into right guard? Because remember, last year they brought in the good doctor to play right guard, and that was a big impact as well. The other thing, too, is they brought in Cedric Abue. He's played both left and right tackle. Could he move in? Because, again, I'd rather play Hermans than McDermott, but could Cedric be? Cedric's also played both left and right. He's played slightly more right. Hermans has also played right. If you keep AVT at left tackle, could you maybe put the two new guys at right guard and right tackle? Do you move him back to right guard? I mean, the biggest thing is Brown, because when Brown comes back, and there's a chance he could come back this week, he's officially off the IR. Hopefully he's healthy this week, because if he's healthy this week, it makes the Jets' jobs a lot easier, because then the question becomes, okay, do we move AVT to right tackle or right guard? And then who are we filling out the right tackle spot? I was very high in Pickens in the draft. He's going to be very good as long as he's healthy. Look, I think I scratched my head why when you saw all the receivers go in the first round, why he wasn't selected higher. But look, he's been great, but the Jets also have a special player in Garrett Wilson. So is it pure strength with McDermott or what? For McDermott, when I watch him, a lot of it's technique. Like he struggles with getting his hands up. And a lot of the times they're able to swat the hands away and get that separation. There was a great clip last week that was on Twitter where you saw guys go around him. Like, I don't think he's got the footwork and the handwork. Like he just doesn't look comfortable. I kind of wonder if he'd be better off as a guard, but like I'm not sure what it is. Like to me, it's like the whole package. Zappy in for New England. Hoyer got knocked out. Snoopy, my reporter, bringing me all the hot up to date news. Man, that will be interesting. So, but yeah, like I think Jet fans also feel a bit of a told you so too, because we were screaming for Bryce Huff, especially the last 2 weeks, and a great thing from Antoine Staley. Heard from multiple players that Zach Wilson says, let's go score a fucking touchdown before the last drive. I love that. All dog. Gotta love that. And look, I think that this win covers up a lot today. I think that this win does a lot. And look, the last 2 drives of this game, when the defense knows you have to pass, Zach Wilson, 10 of 12, 6 of 6, perfect on the last drive, 128 yards, 1 touchdown to win the game. That to me is what you really want to see from a young quarterback. And it shows you the value of a great quarterback. And if you want to prove yourself as a franchise quarterback, you have to elevate yourself and you have to prove that you can lift the team, because let's be honest, like I've said it in this episode, I didn't think the coaching was great. I didn't think the play call was great. I didn't think that the usage was great. I didn't like how the offensive line was terrible today. But despite of that, you have to win. And you have to get around it. Like when you are the franchise quarterback, things are not going to be perfect. In the NFL in 2022, you're never going to have a perfect situation. I mean, there's very few teams that are pretty much all bundled up. I mean, we can name them: Chiefs, Bills, probably the Ravens, although I don't love their receivers. But you look at these young quarterbacks and you have to ask, like, can you elevate so-so coaching? Can you elevate poor guys around you? Because let's be honest, when you're drafted that high, you're not going to have the cream of the crop roster around you. And while the Jets have vastly improved that roster, there's still a lot of holes. And Zach Wilson, this was to me the most encouraging thing today. Yes, do I have concerns about his accuracy and his decision making? Yes, but there's still things in his game. I'm hoping that was more rust than anything. But the biggest thing that you have to do is, when in a time of crisis, can a team lean on you in crunch time? When the game is against you, when, like I said, you're down by double-digit scores, that Steelers pass rush is licking their chops because they know you have to pass and they know your offensive line is terrible. And look, Zach, a couple of plays today weren't pretty, but a lot of times you saw the escapability, you saw the ability to get out of pressure, and you hope that for this Jets offensive line, it's just slightly more stable later. But look, I have to give Zach a lot of credit. It wasn't pretty, and let's be honest, some people probably are missing some hair in spots for Jet fans pulling their hair out. Some people are probably took some heart medication, but overall, you look and they made plays today, and he carried himself, and that's what you want to see from a franchise quarterback. I don't think it's crazy, Frank. Now, Frank, I don't think it's a crazy idea to keep Alijah Vera-Tucker at tackle. The question is, right now, let me put it this way. If Brown comes back, I would put Brown left tackle just because Brown's a veteran left tackle, and he's basically stabilized that position. That's really the only position he can play. Where Alijah Vera-Tucker's funny, I think he can be a very good tackle in this league. I do believe he can be an all-pro guard. So the question is, would you rather him be a very good tackle that's maybe a borderline Pro Bowl or an all-pro guard? At this point, with the way the offensive line is, I think you have to play him at tackle, but the Jets can somehow fix their tackle position in the future. Then maybe you put him back inside the guard. But look, right now, with the state of the Jets, because Mitchell's injury, we probably won't know until tomorrow. Probably out for at least an extended period of time. He's probably on the IR. So now you have Fay on the IR. You're going to have Mitchell on the IR. You, of course, have Beck on the IR. And look, for people that want to kill Joe Douglas, and I've been one that says I didn't love the amount of tackle depth, but let's be honest, the Jets right now are down to their 5th and 6th tackles. I mean, no team in the NFL is expecting that. Like, no team in the NFL is. The worst case scenario is you're on like your 3rd and 4th. I mean, Jets are past that. They're already on plans like F and like Z at this point right now. So I'm also curious too. If I'm Joe Douglas, I try to be creative, because if Bryce Hall is not going to play on this team, if Denzel Mims isn't going to play on this team, can you get creative right now? Can you trade like Mims to Chicago for like a Tevin Jenkins or something, or an offensive lineman, or to a team that needs receiver and get a backup lineman and see if it works? Can you trade, even if you have to throw in a late draft pick, like, can you trade Bryce Hall? Like, offensive linemen are hard to find, but could you trade Bryce Hall to a team that desperately needs a corner? So, I mean, they're two guys that I could see potentially being used as chips to address this offensive line. And look, it's not a perfect solution. But I think it's something that the Jets at this point have to consider. Like, look, I think that there's some tackles out there that maybe there's a backup tackle with a high price tag on another team. But look, I have to give the Jets credit. They found a way to win today, and I do want to see how they address this tackle position. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. Jets can beat Miami next week. Exactly 5 years since Jets have had a winning record. Yeah, man. It's been a while, Billy. The Dolphins game will be interesting, because I do think that it can go one of two ways. The Dolphins will have extra rest. The Dolphins will try to win in spite of Tua, and maybe that'll be a rallying call, but it also could be divisive. I'm really curious because the Dolphins this whole week. Now, the other thing too is they've had distractions this whole offseason, so I don't know how much of a big deal it is. But that the Dolphins, because they even announced today that one of the doctors was fired. The NFL's investigating. You have Congress apparently writing to the Dolphins. You know that this Tua injury is going to be a major talking point, a major distraction. I mean, for example, I work in sports radio as a producer, and it was still one of the biggest topics today on Sunday, and this happened on Thursday night. That's how much of an impact it had. So I'm wondering how much a distraction that will be. Can we pick up LDT? Could be solid depth and have AVT play right if Max is out. LDT. Joel, can you just refresh my memory who LDT is? I not getting the abbreviation right now. So thanks, Momo. Always appreciate it. Yeah, guys, share this on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Like, I live tweet during the games, and some of them were a bit negative at points. Like, let's be honest. Like, at one point, I said, look, this coaching staff's on the clock. When they were down 10 points, I said, look, if this game ends when they're down 10 points, this coaching staff's going to be on the clock. Everyone in this organization is going to be on the clock. But the Jets did a really good job fighting back. Again, guys, we'll look to have more guest Jets content on this channel. Trying to organize more Jet personnel involved on this channel. Looking to get Kayla back later this week. I know she's out tomorrow, so I'm going to plan to try to get her in on Tuesday. We will see. Of course, she's incredibly busy. Seeing if other Jets personalities, other people that cover the Jets can get on the show to talk New York Jets. So we will try to get more of them because I love their viewpoints. They bring great personality. And look, we want to expand this to as many Jet fans as possible because you guys are a great fan base. And really, you guys are well-known fan base. Like, you know your football, which is great. Joyner redeemed himself. Yeah, apparently Joyner and Jet fans has bought himself another week. Joe Douglas brought in all the right tools. How could you say anything is his fault when the mechanics? Look, Momo, it's really a lot of perception. Like, people were killing Douglas for not addressing the tackle position draft. And look, personally, if they weren't going to play Ruckert, I really wanted them to draft a tackle in the first 40, but they went with Jermaine Johnson. They went with Breece Hall, which I don't have a problem with. And look, I keep saying this for Jet fans, you can't have everything you want. So, like, I keep putting this scenario, like, everyone loves Sauce Gardner and how great Sauce is. Like, look, if you wanted Joe to really address the offensive line, Sauce wouldn't be a Jet. They probably would have taken a tackle at 4, or they would have had to pass on Garrett Wilson and take a tackle at 10 or trade up from 10 to get a tackle, like one of the top 3 tackles. So, I mean, or they would have had to trade back in to try to get in front of the Cowboys to get the Smith kid that went from Tulsa, and he's been talented, but has also had a ton of penalties this year. So, look, like, you can't have it both ways. Like, I know the Jets love this draft class, and to be fair, Max Mitchell was looking like a great steal in the 4th round. So, I don't know if you remember, but I said AVT at left tackle and Herbig at guard. No, Paul, I remember what you said. I was surprised the Jets would do that, and I give the Jets credit for doing that. But my thought process was that they'd moved him from left to right. You've already had Fant complain about moving back and forth. You have AVT playing really great at right guard. And it just felt like, to me, Mitchell might make the most sense just because he played left tackle last year. It's been 2 years since AVT played left tackle. But look, I want to see this coaching staff make more adjustments. But even though this is a small one, I am glad that they made this decision. And yeah, I agree. It was like I was saying, the best way to get the front 5. And my thing was basically moving Mitchell, was moving AVT to right tackle, Herbig to guard, and then Mitchell to left tackle. Yeah, I don't think he's playing this year. I'll have to look that up. Laurent Duvernay. Sorry about that. LDT. I always just call him the good doctor. You know, that's always my I'd love to get him back. I'm trying to remember if he officially retired. I think I have to check. I was pretty sure that he wasn't coming back to play football, though it is saying, according to the Globe and Mail, he would consider one more season in the NFL. Look, I would love to see him come back. The thing, too, is I know he's also going to focus on his medical residency. Yeah, this is what he said, was he was pausing his residency. Look, if I'm the Jets, I would make that call personally for Laurent Duvernay. He was a great stabilizing force at guard, and I would play VT at tackle. And I think it would stabilize the guard position because he, to me, is an upgrade over Herbig. Duvernay Tarviv, I would like to see. Again, it comes down to how long is it going to take him to get in shape? I'm assuming he's staying in shape, but you would feel the Jets want to get him at least a week or two in before playing him. Then it comes down to the financials, and also he also paused for his medical career. So I think it also depends on where he is there. Personally, I would bring him back if I can bring him back too. Look, I agree. Zach played well. There's still there. I still also want to be forthcoming. I didn't love the throwing into triple coverage at the end of the half. I thought that was a bad mistake. Conklin was a bit high. Conklin still probably should have had. That's one thing I hate about receivers. If it's high, try to pull the ball down. Don't pop it up because it can lead to interceptions. And look, Zach, this is part of the problem with the Jets of where you want to eliminate variables, which is the mistakes today from Zach and the inefficiency. I put that more on the offensive line. But as the season goes on, the question is going to be, well, is it Zach or the offensive line? Because when it did look like the offensive line was holding and he had time, he looked great coming back in this game. So we do have to see, like, I'm attributing some of the mistakes to Russ in the offensive line play, but hopefully that can stabilize that. And look, and it was a sloppy game, and Billy brings up a great point. Mitchell is ranked higher than the top pick. She gave me the right call. No one can predict injuries to tackle. Yeah, guys, I'm just trying to check in on Twitter between the press conferences too. I don't think that there's been a official diagnosis for the injury yet. Anyone know how Bailey Zapp's doing right now? I'm just not looking at the TV. But look, I think despite the bad quarterback play, look, let's be positive. The Jets defense did their job. They played a lot better. And look, they're going into after the first quarter of the season, they're a 500 football team. For as frustrating as this has been, and you look, first three quarters, Zach Wilson was 1 of 11 with an interception when pressured. He was 2 of 200 arrests on the game-winning drives. But that also shows you on the game-winning drives, he had 12 dropbacks, was pressured on 2 of them, but was still 10 for 12, 128, and a touchdown that last drive. So, look, they were great today. I thought that they did a very good job, especially the safeties played better. And look, this is a big win, and this is a win the Jets – look, they had to win this game because there really is this big difference between being a 1-3 football team and being a 2-2 football team looking at. And I said coming in the season, the Jets needed to find a way to be 2-2. At this point, they did it. It wasn't pretty, but they got there. Clemens was a bit silent. I know Clemens had the penalty on the kick return, or was it the punt return? One of the returns. I thought he was okay. I thought Jermaine Johnson had a better game. Look, I think I'd like to see Clemens a little bit more on the inside, but it's clear that they like the rotation there. And look, Quinnen played a lot more snaps this week. That's one thing I noticed is that they still rotate, but some of the guys also stayed out there too. Let's see. I back up Joe Douglas on not drafting an offensive lineman early draft. If we were all healthy, it would have been an impressive line. I believe that. Look, like you cannot predict. And look, let's be honest. The Jets are probably going to sign Dwayne Brown. They were still interested. So Dwayne Brown was going to be the Morgan Moses, the swing tackle. I mean, they've already ripped through all 3 of those options. And, you know, you had Max Mitchell, who was exceeding expectations. And unfortunately, he goes down too. So overall, though, I thought Zach Wilson, Joyner, Davis, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Sauce had great games. But let's be honest. I give the Jets a lot of credit. AVT was a smart move. I really thought that was a smart move. And it's clear, too, that AVT was this team's best run blocker. I do think that had a huge impact on the run game because you can tell he's a great run blocker, and it's a little bit harder at the left tackle position to generate that. Look, if I'm the Jets, I try to bring back Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. I think he fits the guard position. He's a really good run blocker. Remember, the Jets' run offense jumped a whole 1.2 yards per carry last year once they inserted him into the lineup. So, again, it comes to what he's thinking. It comes down to, does he want to come in? Look, the other thing, too, is I like the Jets uniform combo today, but can they wear the green socks? Like, I hate the all black it looks like tights, like the one. Like I like it when you break it up with the socks. Like I think that'd look better with the green socks or at least the black helmets. I think that'd be cool. I know some Jets fans don't like it, but it's funny. The Jets have worn. I love the Jets. They're gangrene, but they've worn the white jerseys 4 times this year. Dolphin secondary is banged up, but Victor, it's a good point. But their front seven's still very good. That's going to be the biggest. That's going to be the biggest situation too. So if I'm them, I'm still concerned about that front seven. Yeah, sorry, I just got text message there, but Genghis, I'm a little surprised. Like I thought we'd have some more viewers in here. Is it only when I'm upset and raving about the Jets that we get more viewers after a loss? Like I'm a little surprised today. I don't know if maybe there's a lot of other people going live because the Jets won today, but I thought there'd be a lot more positive reaction and feedback today from you guys. So again, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button. If you're joining us, of course, after this show, make sure to put your comments in the comment section. I will answer them in the next video. Look, overall, I thought the Jets, it was a mixed bag today. There's still a lot for me left to be desired by this coaching staff. There are still some interesting play calls out there that I thought could have gone either way. I thought the offensive line was iffy at best at times. But overall, look, it's a win. And you cannot take a win away from this Jet team. It was an impressive win. And it was a win that they desperately needed because now it changes the complexion of the season where they only have to really win one game over the next 5 weeks. And look, I know that there's probably going to be a game or two where they're going to get blown out. It's not going to look pretty over the next week or couple weeks. But look, it's just right now the Jets are probably punching a little bit above their weight class over the next couple weeks. So as long as they can get to the bye at 3-6, I think that they give them at least a respectable shot to compete in the second half of the season. So, and look, it could be worse. It could be the Giants who are basically playing with Saquon Barkley as a freaking quarterback at one point today. But overall, though, I'm really happy with this Jet win because the biggest thing, and I will keep coming back to it, the offensive line is an issue. I get it. The coaching, did it raise more questions than probably answers today? Yes. Do you love how this roster is necessarily constructed? Maybe not. But the biggest thing this whole season revolves around, and I keep saying this, isn't even necessarily the record. It's Zach Wilson. And the biggest thing I will take out of this game, because yes, I know the stats aren't pretty. Yes, I know when you look at the box score, the QBR isn't great. I understand he had 2 bad interceptions. But the biggest thing I will take away from this game is that Zach Wilson put this team on his back and carried this team. And if you're looking for a franchise quarterback, you need to do that. Like Mac Jones has been very successful in New England, but I can't think of a time where they needed him to step up, where they needed him to basically pull the team along, because they always usually have the better coaching. And in games where you see when the Patriots get down late in the game, they don't trust him. But with the Jets, they put the ball in Zach's hands. They're like, Zach, we know you've been running for your life. Zach, we know our offensive line is crap today. Zach, we know they're coming at you. Zach, we know we're down 2 possessions with limited time. But Zach went out there and answered the call. He was 10 of 12 down the stretch on those 2 drives. And he did it in spite of dumb penalties by his own teammates. Like the Jets, every time they would get a big gain, it would seem like there'd be, okay, a negated penalty coming. This is frustrating. But overall, I'm really happy with this win. There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. But here we are at the quarter mark of this season. Here we are at a point where, yes, and we saw some positives from this defense. I think this defense made some plays, but still, I don't love the lane rushing discipline. Lost it with another bad penalty from another veteran player, which is another troubling thing. But that defense, you see, clearly has some star power with Quinn, it has star power with Sauce. And look, I'm also, be honest with you, I'm starting to get concerned about the linebackers because all of a sudden with Quincy gone, you notice CJ was a bit exposed when CJ had to line up against the tight ends and CJ had to cover out in space. Looked like CJ might have lost a step or two. But the biggest thing I will take out of this game is that Zach rose to the occasion. This is an isolated incident, but it is a good thing to build off of because in the last, 12 years, how many times have the Jets been in this situation and they didn't have a chance? But Zach willed this team back, and it wasn't like Flacco against the Browns because let's be honest, the Browns had one of the worst coverages in the world and left Corey Davis wide open, which basically allowed the Jets to. And look, I give Flacco credit on the next drive where he had the short field, but Zach had to go the full field. Zach had to score 2 long possessions. Zach had to go against a team that knew he was coming. And Zach was also playing with a worse offensive line at the time than Joe was dealing with. But despite all that, despite having to run for his life, and I'd love a fitness tracker to know how many yards Zach just ran around today, just like to avoid pass rushing. But Zach today stepped up. And the key players that are the bedrocks of this organization, as Spin Max Dave brings up, the future pieces that you hope are bedrocks of this organization stood up. You saw Sauce play great today and help force that game-changing interception. You saw Quinnen Williams be a game wrecker in the middle of the field and back up that comment. And you could tell he was pissed about that comment that was made about him, whether it was meant to be, offhand or what it came across the wrong way, but he played mad and angry, and that was great today. You had Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore when they could make a couple plays. You had Breece Hall with a couple of impactful runs, including the touchdown run today. You had Elijah Vera-Tucker, who is a budding star at offensive line, basically answer the call by moving him to left tackle. That to me is the exciting thing, is the pieces. Like, I don't think it's all going to come together, but it feels like the Jets now actually have bedrock pieces in place. But the most important position of all, and without question, is always the quarterback. It always will come down to the quarterback, and it will always be, this season will always be defined by how Zach Wilson does. And look, it wasn't pretty. I still think there's a long way to go. I want to see more from Zach. I want to see more consistency. And look, granted, this offensive line needs to play a lot better in front of him. I get it. But Zach also proved what great franchise quarterbacks do. They take what they're given with and make it work. Joe Burrow has horrendous offensive lines. He makes it work. Justin Herbert has probably horrible coaching, bad front office, and a not great offensive line. He makes it work. The great quarterbacks, despite how bad it is, they find a way to make it work. And Zach did that today. Yes, I know it's the Steelers. Yes, I know it's not a great team. Yes, I understand that he wasn't playing a great quarterback today. But Zach also had to go down the field twice and get it in the end zone twice against a good defense with a good pass rush, with a bad offensive line that knows that they can get home and get to Zach Wilson. And despite all that, he stood in there, he made plays, and he helped the Jets win another improbable game. And look, I'm not a huge fan of this coaching staff. I like a lot of the things they do, but I have also a lot of questions, and they're going to be under a lot of scrutiny in the next couple of weeks, especially from this fan base. But the one thing I will say that I do notice that is palpably different about this team with this coaching staff. Yes, the X's and O's have brought up a lot of questions, but it is clear that the attitude of this team is significantly different, where they don't feel they're out of a game and they play hard and late into the game. Under Adam Gase and Todd Bowles, too many times when the game got down by 10, how often was the team already looking forward to the next week? How often was they checked out of the ball game? With this team, no matter what the score is, they've been checked in. They are fighting. They are playing hard. And there's something to be said about that. Because especially in the NFL, when you're getting embarrassed, it's a long season. It's easy to start looking forward to the next week. But I give this coaching staff a lot of credit in that regard. Yes, I still have questions about their X's and O's, but it's clear that even though I don't love how they start games, I feel they come out flat a lot. that at the end of games, this team is fighting, they're clawing, they're kicking, they're scratching, they're feisty, and they did whatever they had to do today, and they got a big win. And look, this is a huge win for this team because it takes a little bit of pressure off this team. And there's a big thing. Like you attack the season in quarters. I know it's hard now with 17 games, but basically the Jets enter after the first quarter at 500. How long has it been since the Jets were at the 500 mark at the first quarter of the season? I think the last time that was even close was 2015. I have to pull that up. Like, I know the Jets won a great 5-game winning streak, and they might not have even had a 2-2 start that season. I might even be wrong about that, but it just shows you that this team is at least in a better position. And at the end of the day, they have a competitive record. And look, this next quarter in a game is going to be brutal for this team. I get it. But at least they have put themselves in somewhat of a position where they can take a little bit of a blow now and be able to recover in the second half of the season. That's going to do it for us, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with more Jets content. We'll also have more Jets guests this week. Again, you guys are freaking awesome. I love you all. You guys make the show. If you know any Jet fans that want to get on the community, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and let your Jet friends know. Post this on social media. We'd love to get as many Jet fans involved as possible. So you guys always bring great content. You guys always have great questions. And again, you don't have to be here live. If you're joining us after the broadcast, would love to hear from you. Please comment below. I'd love to hear your comments, your questions, and I will get to them in the next video, and I will make sure to shout you out. So make sure that you take the chance to do that. But again, guys, huge win for the Jets. They go to the Steel City and steal a victory as Zach, the comeback kid, pulls off a great comeback as the Jets win 24-20, and the Jets improved to 2-2 on the season. And this week got a little bit more fun as a New York Jet fan. I'll see you guys later this week. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our content coming later this week. I promise you, it's going to be some good stuff here on Rich Sports Talk.